Hey, didn't think I was going to show up, did you? It's Pioneer DJ Happy Hour with me, Jay Brannon. I'm sorry we're running a little late today, but I really appreciate you guys sticking it out. We've got a big show for you today. It's all about the DJM S11. Yes, we're excited about it. I've actually brought a DJM 909. I'm going to talk about that in a little while. I've got a lot going on today. I've got Pryan Johnny's going to come in, do kind of a technical overlook, going to do some little tips and tricks and cool stuff on it. I've also got Rockabeat. One of our demonstrators, Lewis, is going to come in here. He's going to do a live set. We're actually in a different room. You can probably tell by what's going on around me that this is not the usual studio that we do the Pioneer DJ Happy Hour from. So I'm excited about all these different changes and everything going on. I've got some Pioneer DJ news about our mobile app. We've upgraded that now to iOS 14 as well as iPad iOS 14. So if you're on rekordbox, if you're on the DJM Rec, if you're on the RMX 1000 apps and you've already upgraded to iOS 14 on your iPad or iOS 14, you're good to go. So that's some news we've got. I'm going to talk to you about Halloween. I've got some ideas that you may want to use. We've actually got a giveaway today too. I'm really excited about it. We're going to give away a pair of HDJ Q1s. These are our new headphones. You get different color variations. And the way we're going to do this is we're just going to ask you to share the stream today. So everyone in the chat room, we're going to check on things for your site. If you've shared the stream, you're going to be eligible to win in this little drawing that we do on our show, a pair of HDJ Q1. So I'm excited. And now I'm really excited because I'm in this environment. We're talking about the DJM S11. We're going back. I was looking back on the hip hop and I was thinking, man, the old days, like the really old days of hip hop where it really kind of started. What would I be drinking during happy hour? I'm going with the good, the traditional, the good old can of Budweiser. So as you know, with happy hour with me, you need to open up something, whether it's a can, bottle, something in a glass, whatever it is you've got. But let me start with cheers. And again, thank you all so much for your support. Appreciate you watching. I know you've got a lot going on, but love having every 2 weeks this time to spend with you for happy hour. So this one's got a little foam on it, so that's a good sign. So let me just take my first inaugural sip of the show. Brings me back to the college days, back in the 70s, 80s kind of thing, just back there. So I mentioned earlier in the show that I'd be talking to you about Halloween. Now, I mentioned on our last show when we were talking about COVID that I'd been DJing from my driveway. And in doing so, I'd actually gained a lot of people coming by. People were tipping me, people were listening. I was doing it on Twitch, I was doing it on Facebook, and it really built up. And I was doing it every Friday. I think I was doing it from 5 to 8, 4 to 7. I kind of changed the times, but I did it every week. And I live in a community where I could go on Facebook and tell the community, hey, I'm going to be doing this thing. Do you want to hear anything? Is there a style? I'm going to just put this out there to you. I'm going to be doing it next Friday, the 30th. I'm not going to do it on Halloween because I want to give kids the opportunity if they're going to trick or treat or dress up or do whatever they want to do. But I thought the night before would be a good night that we all DJs, get out your gear, get out some lights, go red, go strobe, go whatever you want. But do a DJ set from your driveway, from your front lawn, wherever you live. If you can get outside, parking lots, doesn't matter. But do a DJ set. If you haven't been DJing, as many of us, including me, haven't been, it's a great opportunity to get out there and to kind of feel your way through it again, but have some fun and do a set. In fact, in the chat, I'll give you one of my Halloween fave songs. If you want to then, in the chat room, mention one of your favorite Halloween songs. So I'm going to start with Concrete Blonde, Bloodletting. It's kind of a deep dive track. It was that, or it was going to be Bauhaus, Bela Lugosi's Dead. Those are going to be my kind of a tie. So I'm going to mention both. But in the chat room, just give us your tracks, let us know so we can build up a set for that event. So, again, take the opportunity, get out in front of the house, get out in a parking lot, do whatever you need to do, but DJ that night, make it something that you can look forward to next week and just keep the skills going. The other thing is this, I'm not going to do music on this show. I'm going to do music news on the next show, which will actually be November 12th. That's going to be a good one. You're going to want to make sure you're around for that. I'm gonna have our holiday gift guide as well as specials, as well as I'm gonna walk you through our gear, what I think is the best piece of gear for you, depending upon your needs. So you can always put on Facebook, and of course, all of our handles are Pioneer DJ USA. So if you're on Facebook, Pioneer DJ USA, Instagram, Pioneer DJ USA, or Twitch, Pioneer DJ USA. But if you have thoughts or questions about gear, you want to put them on at least the Facebook source, and I can get to those in a couple of weeks when we do our November 12th show. But for this show, since we haven't had any trade shows, I wanted to see what was the best piece of gear you bought at a trade show. Not hard gear, and what I mean by hard gear is controller, mixer, players, things like that. I mean the side gear, and I'll give you mine. Probably the best piece, and if you have one, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It has to be my rock and roll cart. This has saved me time, effort, my back, everything. I have put it in the front seat folded between the seat and the dashboard of a Mazda 626, a Chrysler Sebring convertible, of course, my Honda Odyssey van that everyone knows I have. Last week, I put it in to move some things in front of a 1997 Volvo V70. Fits perfect right in the front seat between the seat and the dashboard. That's by far one of the best things I've ever bought at a trade show. I also, in 2008, picked up DJ skirts. And if you don't know what those are, they're custom fit tablecloth cover for a table, either 6 or 8 foot or 4 foot. I have the 6 foot. Has zippers in each corner so I can run my cables, look really clean, really neat. And it has speaker covers. So I can put it on the bottom of a speaker stand or on the pole of the speaker stand. That's 12 years ago that I bought these. That was, I believe, at the Chicago Mobile Beach show. The same year, I picked up some amazing lighting when LED lighting kind of came into its own back in 08, and it was at the DJ Expo show, and I got some 199B color wash from Chauvet. So what I'd like to hear from you in the chat is, what have you bought at a show that you look back on as, man, I could not live without this item? The skirts I've used at probably every event I've ever done. The rock and roll cart is by far the best thing I own because it carries everything. I used to have small carts and hand carts, and they didn't really fit anywhere. I couldn't really get things done the way I wanted to. So that rock and roll cart is probably my number one. But in the chat, if you want to go in there, and if you notice, I have a computer on the side here, and I'm just going to pick it up and show you real quick. You look on the screen, we have a new partner. It's our third show. We already have partners. How awesome is that? You can see right here, it's XMG. This is a computer company, sent this over to us. I'm excited. I cannot wait to kind of deep dive into this, but check them out, XMG on your intraweb, of course. But yeah, they're one of our show's new partners, so I'm excited about that. So now I have a way to look and see what's going on, not only in the show, but general day-to-day DJ biz. Hope all of you are doing well in that respect. Need another quick sip of King of Beers right here. These are empty, you can tell. Awesome. Now, as I said earlier, we're going to be talking about this, the DJM S11. We launched this last Thursday, so it's been out for 7 days. People have been very, very excited about it. There's various aspects of it that are really intriguing to the DJ. If you're a scratch DJ, if you're a battle DJ, even if you're a mobile DJ, it has facets of it that really will change the way you do your job. Now, on this particular model, you notice there's 2 gray stripes that go up it. We have 2 models we're selling right now. We have the DJM S11 and we have the DJM S11 SE. This is the special edition SE. If you wondered what these stripes were really for and what they reminisce about, it's this over here. This is the DJM 909. This was a battle mixer that we came out with, believe it or not, in 2004. So 16 years ago, we launched 2 battle mixers, the 707, which had no effects, and then the 909 that had the touchscreen. And this is what we use to introduce things like ducking echo, which is where when you bring your fader down all the way, it keys off an echo. It also had crossfader set up, thousands of combinations, literally thousands of different combinations for your crossfader. This was highly touted, used by some of the biggest names in the game of scratching and battle DJ. So we wanted to pay respect, not only to what goes on today with DJs, but also to give you a little throwback, give you the opportunity to see what it was once like when we had the 909 out there. And again, today, we're going to do our best to talk with Priyan Johnny. He's going to do a little bit of a deep dive and go over some of the technical aspects, show you what's going on with the DJM S11. And then I've got my bro, Lewis Rockabeat. He's going to actually be doing a set live. We're actually in his studio over here at the mill. So I'm excited about that. And just in case you're curious, we've maintained social distancing the whole time we've been here because we do want to stay well so we can make any future gigs we have. And we want to make it to next Friday when we do our famous From the Driveway. And that one we may pick up even next Friday. I may go on Facebook on the Pioneer DJ USA page, and maybe we can start something there where DJs can put in how their set's going, maybe post a photo, video. We'll see how that one works out. But again, just so I remind you, today, if you share this stream on your social media channels, we can then go in and check that out. It'll allow you to be entered into the drawing to win a brand new pair of HDJ Q1s. These are our newest headphones. You've probably seen them before. They're amazing. They come in a ton of different colors. We really want to give the DJ the opportunity to not only express themselves, but use what their colors are and take that variation and work with it, whether it's red set with, yellow cups on it, or black or blue, or whatever the combination might be. We've made it so that you can interchange not only the ear covers, but also outside, pick one solid color and then change it for moods. If you're doing parties, I know a lot of glow in the dark parties. It's really cool if you had white and then you had that bright green, bright yellow, bright orange, where it really picks up when you have black lighting. So we've done our best to make this as cool for you as we can because we know it's you putting your personality out there as a DJ. So I'm going to check with production, of course. I've got my guy JP on things today, as I do always. And I've got some other people. We've got probably about 30 people running the show back there. And I get to sit here in this cool kind of BYOB TV rap set, which I'm digging because I have my throwback beer. And if I find out that my boy PJ, Priyan Johnny, is available, we are going to go to him in just a moment. Some other people. This came out, as I said, about a week ago. This is, I would say it's fair to say that this is now the new lead battle mixer that Pioneer DJ is offering. Those of you that are in this realm, that are scratchers, that are battlers, that like the 2-channel configuration, are probably familiar with our one that we came out with about 5 years ago called the DJM S9. Amazing piece of gear. Set up without this 4.3-inch screen that's a touch screen, and we're going to be going over that a little bit later on and what the availability is for that for your sets. Even if you're doing it as a mobile DJ, we've got some kind of deep dive things we can tell you about that'll allow you to enhance your night and move samples and tracks around, and just it does so many amazing things. I've had the good fortune of messing with it a little bit, and even though, as you know, I'm primarily a wedding DJ, it's really got some things that are cool for me. Something as simple as you've got 8 hot cues points on each side, where before you would just be able to use hot cues or roll or looping. Now we can split it up. So you can have 4 different banks. So you can have 4 that are doing hot cue. You can have 4 that are doing beat jump. You could have 4 that are doing samples. You'd have 4 that are doing roll. It's pretty amazing. It's not stuck and set where it's one side only. It's now split up. So you have the availability to change left deck, right deck, channel 1, channel 2, as to what you want the pads to do. So really excited about that. Still comes with your triggers that are just amazing. The crossfader is incredible. The adjustments on it, if you were to move it on its loosest adjustment, it can actually bounce back to where it almost comes halfway across the mixer. So those of you that like a really light touch on the crossfader, this is really for you. My scratching ability, if you've seen me, you know, not great. But even I found I could scratch a little better because of the cut on the curve. And all that adjustment is going to be done up here in the main menu on my touch screen. So we're going to get a lot more information from TJ and Rockabeat. These are guys that have been training on this, using this for quite a while. This is really their realm. They're the scratch guys that are absolutely in love with this. One of the other features I've had a lot of DJs ask me online about is, let's say I wanted to use something that ran off USB. we actually have 2 USB inputs in the back. So you could plug directly in for audio. So we've got you covered no matter what gear you're using to bring you up to this new standard, because I truly believe this is going to set the bar a little higher than it has been of late, because we've really listened to you, the DJ, taken everything from the 909, taken everything from the S9, and given you this, the new S11. So I need a sip of beer. So we're going to hold it for 1 second on that.
Because the
Tastes just like I remember it did a couple weeks ago. We're going to check now and see if Pryon Johnny is going to be available for me. He lives in a state right now. It's about 80 out here. His state has snow, I think. You can believe that. It's only October, but his state already has some snow in the ground, which is why I'm here at the mill in beautiful Southern California. So I think we've got Pryon Johnny available, and we're going to turn things over to him for a little demo on the DJM S11. PJ, what's up, buddy?
How you doing? Do you hear me?
Yes, I do, my friend. How are you?
Awesome. Just
You need a
enjoying
beer?
the cold here.
Yes. You got a
Got
beer?
one right here.
Awesome.
Cheers.
Good. Cheers to you too, my friend. I'd love to have you take over,
Yep.
if you don't mind, and explain to these fine folks all about the DJM S11, if you would.
Awesome. I'll do a quick overview of all the features, and then we can deep dive in some of the exciting ones just right after. So we're gonna go bottom up. We'll start with the Magvel Pro fader, the favorite fader that everyone has on the S9. Couple new improvements on it. And we got the Smooth Echo, which is a global echo effect that affects both channels. It's separate from the beat effects and the color effects. So next, we have our performance pads. And like you were saying, one of the cool things about this performance pads is that it's not just independent pad mode. It also has combo pads. So you can use 2 pad modes for each section for up to 4 different pad modes. Each pad mode has up to 3 functions, not just a secondary. There's a third one. There's one when you use shift, and there's the other one when you double click. And all 4 of them have that. And as we move up the mixer, we do have the effects section. And there's 22 total effects on this mixer, 22 hardware effects. And of course, you can also use your Serato effects with this mixer. As we move up, we have our new, well, our change back and load button. The load button is bigger, the back button is smaller, just so it's easier to find without looking at it. The trim, EQ, and color effects are now in one single linear array. And of course, we have our 4.3-inch touchscreen. It's at least 30 frames per second. It's very smooth when you see the waveform. And it's also the way you can go through different functions of the mixer. You can look at your browse here. You can go into your effects settings. You have 4 banks, and this is where you can change your hardware effects along with your Serato effects. And if you look, one of the cool things about this touchscreen is the fact that it has a home button. And this is also where you can access your touch effects. By the way, this mixer is actually a 4-deck mixer, not just 2. It's laid out like a 2-channel mixer, but you can do up to 4 decks on it, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. And of course, this is where you can access your waveform. And also, on the back of the mixer, as Jay mentioned, there's a USB hub, which allows using CDJs if you have HID mode to be plugged into there. You can also use it for accessories or other devices that are media players or accessories like the DDJ XP2. So that's basically the overview of most of the new features of the mixer. So we'll deep dive into some of them. Everybody that I've been talking to really likes what this feature called the Smooth Echo, and it's this button right over here. And what Smooth Echo is that it replaces the some folks like to use a foot switch to trigger their echo right at the end of their scratch. And what smooth echo does is that it takes, for example, the crossfader as one of the triggers when you cut off, so that it only gets the last part of your scratch sentence. So let me show you what that sounds like. So if you were scratching, you don't hear anything, but when I cut it off, you hear the last part of the scratch sentence. No echo. You hear the last part. Now, one of the cool things with smooth echo is you can also set it so that it doesn't trigger until you leave the crossfader open for a specific beat duration. And what I did was hold the smooth echo to access the parameters, and I set it to 1 beat. So if I'm crabbing away, you don't hear the echo until I leave the crossfader open long enough. So no echo, then an echo. So that's how smooth echo works, and it's not just the crossfader that can trigger it. It can be triggered by the hot cues, the silent cue, the channel faders, gate cues, and the load. And you can even change the beat duration of the echo itself. And it works separately from the color effects and beat effects. Now next, for our performance pads, we have a couple new functions on it that work with Serato. So when you're using your controller, you have this ability to trigger your hot cues even when the deck is stopped. You can momentarily trigger your hot cues when it's in internal mode. But when you're in normal hot cue mode, you can't really trigger your hot cues when the timecode signal is stopped. Well, the third function of the hot cue, when you double click it, is called a gate cue. So when it's playing, you can actually have silence. Whoops, let me turn off smooth echo. Now you have momentary hot cue, which is the gate cue mode. So now you can drum using the hot cues. And what's cool about the gate cue is it can also serve as your silent cue. So if I took another track and loaded it, it would be mute. And if I want to do a silent entry of the song, I just click one of the hot cues and then just click the hot cue mode button, and now it's playing like a silent cue. One of the other favorite features that people really like is the scratch bank, which is the secondary function of sampler. And what scratch bank is, let me load it here. It's the ability to be able to load a scratch sample into the deck and then be able to go back to whatever you had loaded on that deck. So say I had the song Duckface on this deck, if you can see on Serato. And I had a song going on channel 1 and I wanted to quickly do a scratch solo. So when I have scratch bank on, I can summon a scratch sample from my scratch bank. And if you look on the bottom of my Serato screen, it might be a little hard to read, but those are the scratch banks. It looks very similar to the sampler, but the way it works differently is you're able to load it onto a deck. And now when I'm ready to go back to whatever I had loaded prior to the scratch bank, all I have to do is hold shift, press one of the performance pads, and the last song I had loaded in there is now back there. What's cool with scratch bank is you don't have to just use it with scratch samples. You can use it with songs. And you have up to 4 different banks of scratch banks. You have up to 4 banks, and you can have up to 32 songs in the scratch bank. And we'll talk about that later, but that can also be a benefit for mobile DJs. You don't necessarily have to use it for scratching itself. You can have easy access load to songs. Now, going up the mixer, we got this function in right on the screen where we can access our third and fourth deck. And there's this new function called deck move and dual deck. And to explain how this works is when you have a song playing on deck 1, when you perform a deck move, it can move the track to deck 4. It'll retain the trim, the EQ, and move it to deck 4. And if you have dual deck on, it'll allow you to lock the two adjacent decks that are next to each other so that they behave as if they were one song on one deck. And it sounds complicated trying to explain it in words, but I'll show you a really good way to use it is to create your own mashup and then be able to manipulate it like it's one song. So let me load a song over here. I'm going to set this to 0. And then, excuse me on using this a cappella, but I'm sure everybody knows the Justin Bieber song called Baby. And I am going to take these two songs and just create a really quick mashup. So right now the acapella is playing here, and we got an instrumental here. So I'm going to engage dual deck. And now watch on my Serato screen. When I perform a deck move, it now moves that instrumental into deck 4. And what's cool is when dual deck is on, it behaves as one song. I can scratch it, I can mix it, and I can mix out of it as if it's one whole song. And if I want to unlock the dual deck, I just click dual deck, and now I have independent control of that deck. So yeah. So that's how dual deck works, and that's what we mean by the S11 is actually a 4-deck, 4-channel mixer inside of it. So, and then just a couple other features. We got 22 effects, 7 new ones from the previous 15. And one of my favorite effects is what's called the ducking echo. And what the ducking echo is it works similarly to how the smooth echo works, where it only engages when you close the channel fader. So let's go to ducking echo. So this is set. I'm gonna pick this up, take it to 8 beats. Hold on. Do a 4 beat. 2, 3, 4. And if you have it up all the way, the level knob up all the way, it'll do an infinite loop. So it won't stop. And what's cool about ducking echo, it's an effect that came from the DJM 909, and it's really good for even playing with vinyl if you want to create a loop with your vinyl tracks. So if you're not even using software, you can use the ducking echo to loop when you're playing actual records. And then a couple other things about the mixer. We brought in the ability to loop Serato style, which is you're able to select, if you look on the Serato screen, you're able to select whatever loop length you have, and then that's what's going to be the auto loop. Now for the previous S9 users, you can change the loop options to be more like the S9, which I did in the settings here, which you have a predetermined loop length. So no matter where you have it highlighted, it'll always go to your predetermined length. I have it at 8 right now, and it automatically goes to 8. And I know S9 users like that because just in case you leave the cursor highlighted on a really awkward length, like 1/4 or 1/2, you're able to always have a default loop length that you can always go back to. So, and yeah, basically that's some of the favorite effects on favorite features that people have talked about on this mixer. I really love the crossfader itself. It's just so buttery smooth when you scratch to it. Let's see. Yeah. And if you notice on the mixer, on the utility settings, there's the crossfader controls. You can actually control your lag distance here on the touchscreen. And if you're familiar with the settings utility on the S9, there is crossfader smoothing settings. There was none, small and large. And there's this new setting here on the S11 called Sharp. And Sharp is actually emulated from classic turntablist mixers. Because back in the day, people used to buy mixers similar to how instruments are, how they sound a little different with how you scratch, how you cut, and the cut distance was really a big deal for a lot of scratch folks. And the Sharp was modeled after the smoothing of old school mixers and how they sounded when you scratch on them. So in addition to none, small and large, we have Sharp. So let's see. But yeah, that's basically some of the things about the DJM S11 that are awesome. Jay mentioned the sound quality, because it does have 64-bit mixing and dithering, so it sounds studio quality. It sounds good on a big sound system, and of course the phono preamps sound great for using real vinyl on. And we'll take it back to Jay.
I'm trying to check some things in the chat and everything else, and I couldn't help but notice while we're doing this, a name came up on the screen, and I recognized the avatar on it, and we actually have Shortcut in the room today. And I mean, one of the preeminent greatest scratch DJs I've ever seen. I had the luxury and pleasure of working with him a few years ago in San Francisco down, I think it was down World of Stereo. I don't know if Shortcut's still in there, if he remembers that, but it was an amazing time. And we actually posted a video from that up on the Pioneer DJ USA Facebook page. So we've got some amazing stuff going on. PJ, I really appreciate that. Do you have time to stick around? What we're going to do is I'm going to throw things over in a moment to Rock a Beat, and then I'd love to have you stick around and do a little.
No problem. I'll be here.
Okay, perfect. If you want to jump into the chat room, we've got some questions. I don't know if you want to tackle those. I know we have Matt Play from Chicago is actually monitoring our chat room today as well. So we can either have one or the two of you get in there, and then we'll have a little set here from my boy Louis Rockabeat. And then I think we'll come back with the three of us, and we'll do a little Q&A and talk a little bit more about the mixer and how that's going for everybody. Because I mean, let's be honest. I know this gets said too often, but I think we're looking at a game changer here with some of the availability. You went over a lot of the points that I've heard nothing but praise about, but I'd also at some point like to go over, and maybe you can show us after Lewis's set about how I can actually switch up, and instead of just having one side hot cue, one side hot cue, I can actually now do two different functions on 4 pads on each side. So I'm really running. Yep. I mean, that would be great if we can go over that when we get to our little Q&A session. But as it stands right now, I think I'm almost ready to kick it over to my boy, Louis, DJ Rockabeat. He's another one of our demonstrators, an amazing talent. This guy is going to shred things on the DJM S11. So Let me see if we can get a beat coming over there from up. It sounds like we're there. I think we're ready to go. I turn it over to Lewis. DJ, rock a beat. Yeah, I can hear it. Sounds good.
Let the rhythm take you.
Done.
Nice. Nice. That was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, buddy.
Just a little touch of it. Yeah, no. I'm feeling that. I'm totally feeling that. We're going to bring you over in a second. Of course, we're keeping social distance. You have to. That's what we're going to do. So we're going to have you probably zip around the set in just a moment. Bring you over here in front of the 909 so you can crack a cold one with me, because that's important. I love the set. Give me just real quick. Give me the first impression on the mixer. First impression out of the box. You plug it in. What's the first thing you think?
Just so much you can do.
Yeah. And you're a 909 user. I mean, I'm sorry, you're an S9 user.
S9 user.
Yeah.
I
So-
mean, it's just like the transition is really easy because the layout's so similar to the S9. If you're an S9 user, it's like you feel like you're at home. So
Yeah.
yeah.
No,
Amazing. Love it.
Yeah, it's an amazing piece, and we're going to spend some good time with PJ. He's still around. We're going to bring you over to the chair, and then we're going to do our little Q&A here. We've got a lot of questions going on in the chat room. I'm really excited about that. A lot of great questions. This is one of the things that I love about the people that tune into the happy hour. These aren't, does it take RCAs? These are deep dive questions. This is the caliber of people that are watching us, and honor and respect to all of you. I so appreciate you taking the time to spend it with us to go over these mixers, because it's amazing. Again, right in front of me right here, this is the special edition. This is the DJM S11 SE. It's not a limited edition. This is a special edition. So for right now, it is available. Down the road, I can't really say, but I will say this. This is not a limited edition. This is a special edition version. So again, we're encapsulating some of the features, especially in the appearance of the 909, because that was the mixer that really kind of put us on the map as far as the 2-channel battle mixer goes. And again, we're going back 16 years ago. This is not something that we just jumped into and said, hey, let's try a screen on a mixer. What do you think? 16 years ago, we were doing this, and the DJs that were using it back then, I know Shortcut's in the room. I can see he's still there. And again, so much respect and love to Shortcut. Just has been an amazing person to work with over the years with various mixers. I've worked with him on the S9. I've worked with him even on the 900 Nexus 2. And the guy is phenomenal. So if you're not involved in following Shortcut, you need to, because the guy is just amazing. So again, I've got the special edition. I just want to be clear. This is special, not limited. So I'm really excited about that. I'm going to get Rockaby to come over here in just a minute. We're going to mic him up first. When he does, we're going to seat him right over there. Again, we're in California. Things are a little tight out here. I don't know how you're doing in your state. Nothing but love and prayers to everybody that's a fan, that's watching, because we know it's a difficult time right now, but we want everyone to stay safe and stay well. So we're giving ourselves some social distance here. We've done all the precautions we can. I've covered his beer with hand sanitizer, so he's good on that one. If we can find, he just took off to the back room for a second, but if he's ready to come in, we're going to bring him in just a moment. Those questions you're asking, we're going to do our best to get to all of them. If you ask a question, we don't answer it. 1, I apologize. But 2, we're going to do our best to get back to you with an answer, and we'll do it on our Facebook page. Again, just so everyone's clear, Twitch, Facebook, Instagram, they're all under the same address of Pioneer DJ USA. So you want to go to our Pioneer DJ USA. And if you're in the chat room today watching the show, and again, thank you, we want to make sure that you share the stream. And if you do, we're going to be checking everybody out that does. So maybe in the chat room say, I shared it. We can check you, because we want you to win a pair of HDJ Q1. If you haven't seen these, check our social media outlets. You'll see some cool videos, a lot of lifestyle shots. You've got various color options, not only in the headband piece, but in the cup, the ear cup piece. So you can get any combination you want to put together. Black and green, white and red, blue and yellow, whatever you want, and really personalize it, make it yours. If your company has particular colors, especially if you're a mobile wedding DJ like me, you can go in there and take those colors and put them on the headset. So a lot of options, a lot of choices on something like our new headphones, the HDJ Q1. I need to open this, so I think if possible, I'd love to bring in Rockaby. so he can enjoy his happy hour beer. Hopefully all of you have a beer with you or a beverage. You could have water, you could have soda. Rockabee has now joined me. I'm excited about this. How are you, sir?
I'm good, man.
I have a fine, high quality beverage for you. I didn't want you to open it alone. So we're going to open these alone. Again, because of hand sanitizer and everything else, we're actually allowed to cheers. We looked that up under government restrictions, and this is
cheers.
within. So cheers. Great set. Great set.
Wow. I haven't had a Budweiser
In a minute.
in a minute.
Yeah. And that was the thing. I wanted to kind of throw back to the days of when you first got into DJing. Before we bring PJ in, what I would love to do is maybe give me a minute background. You know, I've worked with you over the years. I got to give you a lot of props and respect. An amazing scratch DJ, an amazing DJ in general. Your touch and feel on the platters is something I've always kind of looked at and been like, man, I don't scratch, but if I do, you've got a drag that I've seen in some of the other guys in the, you know, in the market, and just always been really impressed. How'd you get into DJing?
Man, I actually got into DJing when I was 14, and it was actually the 909 was the first like real professional mixer that I started playing on, man. So
Wow.
When the DJM S11 SE edition came out, you know, the nostalgia.
Yeah,
you know?
totally.
That paint job, it just like threw me back. That screen, I mean, as far as I know, like the 909 was like the first to do it in that manner, and like the workflow was always amazing. I remember watching like old videos, like, you know, shout out to Shortcut. I saw him earlier in the chat. You know, Qbert and all those guys just playing on the 909 and just beating it up and going crazy on the thing. You know, obviously making it do things that nobody could even fathom. But no, yeah, I started when I was 14. I started DJing with a buddy of mine, actually. And we started doing, you know, underground parties and stuff like that. And eventually I just kind of morphed into this whole like open format, you know, when the whole Red Bull 3 style and that whole genre really started blowing off, like that separation from DMC. That creativity is always what caught my attention. It didn't have to be clean. It didn't have to be, it was just all about just, you know, music selection, vibe, and just like the overall flow of your set. So yeah, so I kind of just started going off of that, you know, and then, you know, I've been doing this for a while with you now. Yeah. You know, I'm sure anybody that's on here has probably seen me on, you know, Nat Nam or any of the shows. We work a lot of the shows together. So, you know,
It's been like 4 or 5 years now. 5 years?
6 years, man.
Man.
I know what? 5 because 2020 doesn't count.
Yeah, no. Let's wipe that one out. I heard a great thing the other day, and it's so true. Days are long, years are short. Yeah. And it's absolutely true. Yeah. And because it seems like yesterday, you and I actually did the LATAM Universal Music event. Over at the fairgrounds. Right. In Newport.
It was Orange County Fairgrounds.
Orange County Fairgrounds. That's right. Orange County Fairgrounds. Yeah. Juan Gabriel and Miguel Iglesias. Yes.
We got to see Juan Gabriel
the
last year.
Yeah.
That was pretty crazy.
Respect. Yeah. You took it out of the box. You and I were talking the other day about it. You plugged it in. You've been an S9 user for quite a few years. You were a 909 user. What would you say was probably the first thing that kind of came out of it that you said, okay, I didn't expect that, or I didn't see that coming? Was there something that jumped off of it to you that just made your workflow and what you do better?
Actually, you know, it's funny because the whole, I didn't understand it until I actually got to try it, which is the scratch sampler bank. You know, on top of the fact that now you can do dual modes and you can layer them and stack them however you want. But the scratch sampler, I used it for every switch that I did during that little routine. So basically all it was is, you know, and even if you're a corporate DJ, any type of DJ, you're clicking a button and it's fully loaded, and your hot cues load. Everything that you have in perspective to that track loads at one time, and it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you do this too. I know you do other events than just something as a performance. Right. Especially with me, I'm doing mostly weddings, love weddings, do them all the time. And it's oftentimes that I find myself saying, I got all these sample decks. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna load tracks. I've even loaded hour-long mixes into a sample bank so that if I need to, I can reach down, hit a button, and boom, I've got a track playing. I don't have to worry about, getting people together for an introduction or whatever. But going over this, what I'm really intrigued about is I could put together 32 tracks. And I'm going to have PJ in just a second, and he's going to go into a little more detail about it. But I could take this mixer, load it with 32 full tracks with my hot cues, with saved loops, with everything, and fire them to the deck. So it's not just where right now, if I play a sample, I play a sample. I can't affect the pitch. I can't really do much more than adjust the volume. But with the S11, I can actually load those tracks into decks 1 and 2 and adjust them any way I want.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
And you can also go back. I mean, it's crazy how it's still somehow, again, this is beyond me, but it's able to actually go back to the original track that you were playing
right
after using the scratch sample. So you can do your full routine and then still have that finishing track.
So I'm doing a dance set, and I've got this great little part of a dance track where I just want that to be the intro scratch. Once I load it and fire it, that track then comes into the deck to play. So I can actually do this on the fly mixing.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Somebody comes up to you,
I'm just saying, maybe it's time I just spend 5-10 minutes and just take on Shortcut. I mean, I'm just saying, I don't want to announce a battle, but I mean, that would never happen. Yeah, not in 100 years could I touch Shortcut on that.
Yeah, you'd be surprised.
But yeah, I mean, that really intrigues me. And again, I'm doing it strictly from a mobile wedding DJ standpoint. That would be a huge asset for me to be able to have that. Maybe I do a set in Serato where and I'm sure you do this. And if you don't do this, please do this. You have a great wedding, great event. Go back to the history in Serato. Go to history, click it, find the date, then find the set, copy the whole thing, and drag it to a new crate. So now if you had a great dance set at a party last week or wherever, you can then go over to your history, save it to a new crate, and name it whatever you want, like successful wedding, great kints, great party, great whatever. And I could take that and then load those tracks in, save them for later. So once dancing starts, I'm not worried about it. Yeah, man, this is, we got to deep dive this a little bit. I want to see if we've got PJ. He is around. Like I said, I apologize. PJ is under weather conditions. It's like 30 below zero and snowing where he is now. He's in the great land of Slipknot. I believe he's in Iowa. I can hear snow falling, and there he is.
Yeah, that's right.
Beautiful. We've got you, my friend. I'm excited about that.
What's
well,
up?
I've got Rockabeat next to me. I've got you, and of course me. So I'm going to add as little as is humanly possible because you guys are killing it on the S11. I'm good pushing play and hitting the volume on this thing. You guys have just been crushing it. During your walkthrough, PJ, you mentioned a couple of things, but if you could, one of the things that I think is exciting about the S11 that's different than the S9 especially is the fact that the pads. So you can take the pads, instead of just having on one side I have 8 hot cues and then the other side 8 hot cues. I can now go with 4 hot cues and then underneath it 4 loops. Yep. I can do 4, whatever I want on the top, samples, let's say on the other side, and then even underneath that. So I technically have 4 sets of 4 instead of just 2 sets of 8. Is that correct? Can you kind of walk me through how it's set up?
Yeah, you can do. So it's basically, there's the combo pad mode. So what it is when it works on the primary pad mode button. So, and it only shows up with the first 4 of each, the ones you use the most. So if you hold hot cue and click sampler, your first 4 samplers will show up on the bottom. Now, if you want it in reverse, where you want your sampler on top and hot cue on the bottom, you start with the sampler, then hold it, click hot cue. Now your hot cues are on the bottom. And you can essentially have a mix and match. So if you have hot cue and sampler here, roll and save loops here. I don't have any save loops on this track, but you can basically have 4 pad modes with the ability to perform on the first 4 of each one of those primary pad modes. And when I say primary pad modes, I'm talking about the first one that you can click. And one of the cool things about it is that they're also color coded, so you can remember what mode you're in. So when you click hot cue, it's white. If you switch to pitch play, it's green. And then when you go to gate cue, it turns red. And each one of the pad modes do that just to let you know what pad mode you're in so you don't forget, and you could quickly glance at what you're in. And of course, when you're in combo pad mode, whoops, they both light up. I know it's not that obvious on camera, but it's lit up brighter when they're engaged.
Okay. And I apologize, I'm glancing between the camera and actually you because I've got you on a back monitor there. But so the way I'm hearing you explain this to me, I've got 4 different levels on either side with 3 sub-levels. So I have 24 different setups on the pads, correct? Where I've got 4 on deck 1, 4 on deck 2, and then I have 3 taps. So technically...
That's correct.
Okay. Wow. That's pretty amazing. So there's any number of different combinations that I can go through and take care of that. Wow. Okay. And I know that Rockabeat Lewis was using some of that earlier, correct?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure if you guys were seeing the display, but there was a moment where I also used ping pong mode, which I'm not sure if you've tried that out, PJ, yet. But ping pong mode is a little cool because it's a little more of a random effect. You can actually flick your finger however you want on the touch effects, and it'll just kind of bounce around and it'll mimic that movement until you click the screen again. So you kind of get like these, just these different type of layers, especially if you're doing vocals and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You get a bunch of cool sounds that you can kind of like, play with and do different things with. So
you're going in the touchpad like almost XY axis as you move around it.
Right.
Wow. I mean, I've seen that in DMX lighting where if you do this, a moving head will do that.
Right.
Wow. And so you're doing that with the audio.
And it'll keep it the whole time until you release it. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Wow. That's amazing. Some of the questions I've seen, PJ, I think you answered some of them actually, but one of them you said you would show an alternative to shortcut for the line switch.
Yeah, because on the 909, if you look, there's actually just a line switch that's basically a kill switch.
Right.
If you look on the actual 909. And there's an effect that emulates that.
Oh.
Quick settings, let me pull that up. So now I know it's not the same as having a switch, but you can use the paddle
Okay.
as a kill. So if you have a scratch sample, let me bring up a scratch sample.
I mean, like real full demo.
You can use the paddle as a way to cut. So if you wanted to use the paddle as a transformer switch, you can do that just by using the kill effect.
Wow. The more I deal with this, the more I find that I'm learning almost on a daily basis. And I know you've spent a lot of time with it, PJ. You've spent a lot of time with it, Lewis. It's just amazing. What I'd love to do is maybe, I just mentioned it, Lewis just mentioned it, but PJ, would you mind terribly, could you show actually on your end, because I've got you on the main monitor right now, could you show how to load multiple tracks to the scratch bank? We were just talking about how as a mobile DJ doing a wedding, I could load, up to 32 tracks. You don't have to load 32, but maybe load 2 or 3 tracks and actually show how those tracks with the cue points, then I could actually fire them and play them. Would that be okay?
Yep, we'll do that right now. And I
Thank you.
Put in three different tracks, and we're gonna go into scratch bank on both sides.
Nice.
So every time we load, you guys hear me all right?
I can. Yeah, I definitely can hear you. Thank you.
Okay. So you can allocate which cue point it starts on, and I just started them all on cue point number 1. So if I'm on this track, I can load that track on the scratch bank. And then now I can load the next track on the scratch bank. And then the third track on the scratch bank, I could bring it here. So yeah, you can basically use Scratch Bank to quickly quick mix tracks and use the performance pads to load every next one. So every performance pad in the Scratch Bank can represent a new song.
Wow.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. I mean, and again, you look at the S9, you look at the 909, the 707. I actually have a 707, believe it or not. There was a point where I was ready to jump into the scratch pool with the two of you, and luckily I had a life vest on. Yeah. So, but I have a 707, so I know how good these mixers are. But I think where the S11 is kind of breaking away from the tradition is that it's become something that, I mean, even the S9 wasn't offering this to the level where, as a mobile DJ, I didn't think the day would come that I'd look at a 2-channel battle mixer and say, oh, I could totally use this.
Oh yeah, 100%.
This would make sense for me to use.
Yeah.
And, you know, again, the more I deal with this, the more I'm like, man, you know, maybe it's time for me to jump back in that pool. Of course, I'll have a life vest on because you don't want me drowning in that pool. You know what I'd love you to do is give me a couple things on it that you've found that maybe aren't on the fact sheet, maybe aren't on the website, maybe we're not discussing on a daily basis about how the S9 works, I mean the S11, or something from the S11 that is different from the S9 that you're really excited about. Okay, so why don't we start with Rockaby?
Well, I mean, really the big one is, I don't think this is on the FAQ, but the bumper, and it's been mentioned before, the bumpers have been optimized now. So along with the utility is now on the mixer itself, which is super convenient because it was pretty crazy. I actually, when I grabbed this mixer, originally, you know, it was in beta, and I kind of needed to start using it. So I was using, you know, real vinyl, and I didn't have any utility or anything like that. So it was super convenient to be able to just click on the settings, go to my mixer section, switch my crossfader cut to whatever I wanted it to be. Right. Just make all the adjustments that I needed to do straight from the mixer and no longer need the computer. I mean, that's been like the biggest thing about this. I mean, technically you're putting your computer down now, and you know, you're not using it for anything because you're doing it all on here, especially if you're using scratch banks. I mean, so long as you're aware of what you're loading, which you should be, there's no reason why, you know, that can't just dictate the flow of your event. And just being able to see your playlist, seeing all your tracks on the screen. Yeah, it's pretty just intuitive. And again, just the biggest thing is just having that S9 layout. But that's the biggest one. I mean, smooth echo, definitely FAQ, but man, what a crazy thing to add. Like such a simple little feature with the smooth echo to have, I don't know, like you're able to just bring down the volume and you're instantly creating that nice fade. So in theory, you can layer your smooth echo, do your effects separately, like add a reverb to that. And now you have a reverb smooth echo out. Right. So you're just layering and layering these effects, and it's just like the creativity. One thing that I haven't really played in terms of like implementing into like anything I do yet is the whole synth feature.
Yeah.
With the faders.
With the faders, yeah. And that was a 909 feature that even I used to show at shows back in, you know, the day, 06, 07, where we would have 909s in a booth. Yeah. And I remember Christian Pulse got me on that, and I'm like, what? He's like, oh no, you can do this. Like you can actually do a synth effect, and you're doing it on that. You know what, PJ, you're sitting next to your S11, yes? Can you demonstrate this feature for us?
Well, there's 3 fader synths.
Okay.
There's the sine, the saw. I usually use a saw. And basically, you use the channel fader to change the notes. And the auto scale will actually automatically match it to the key of the track that's playing on the other deck. So the other deck, I have it in D sharp minor. So this is actually a D sharp minor. And basically your channel fader is no longer a volume control. It's more like maybe frets to a guitar, because now you have and because it's key matched when you have it in auto scale, you can play it to whatever song you have. So yeah.
Wow. Maybe next time use A major, because D sharp minor is just such a sad key. I'm just saying. That's like a Black Sabbath key. Just guitar to guitar. Just you know. No,
Yeah.
have you messed around with that? Have you done the synth? The way you, I mean, your Red Bull entry last year between playing guitar and using scratching and using synth and using, I think, the SP16 and the kitchen sink.
Now it's gonna be the synth wave.
Now it's just gonna be, okay, to add this to it. Yeah, no, can't wait to see what this kid does with this stuff. It's a little crazy on it.
Super crazy.
Anything that you've seen, PJ, as far as using this mixer? And I know that you're all over the gear map from SP3 to, the V10. But what about this would make you say, you know what, I need to use this when I do gigs because?
Well, here's a small one, and it's not even a performative one. It's the fact that the microphone input has, well, it has talkover, but it also has a low cut setting on it, which is a filter off below 80 hertz. Because a lot of feedback that comes into a microphone, especially in a club, comes from the subwoofers, and it's not even usually the high frequency squealing. And I always leave the low cut on. You can turn off the microphone to the booth to reduce feedback so that it's only going out to the masters. And for live streamers, you can turn it off to the recording bus, which lets you just record music only. So if you're live streaming, giving shout outs, giving birthday shout outs to people or congratulations, but you plan on uploading your mix to SoundCloud or Mixcloud, you can have music only so that they don't hear all that. So,
Wow.
And then my favorite thing about the microphone is the fact that it also has a mic limiter and it's independent. There's one on the master and one on the booth. So if you have a guy who's a mic cupper, or if you are a DJ who's a mic cupper, or somebody who just likes to scream into the mic and you
Maybe
don't
they've had
want
too
your
much of
microphone to...
Maybe.
Yeah.
They could be drinking.
Exactly. Like it'll reduce distortion, control the volume, and keep it reasonable so it's not so over blaring.
That's awesome.
And yeah, I love the mic limiter, and that's something that I would understand mobile DJs would appreciate.
I was just going to say, you absolutely took the words out of my mouth on that. I've been using the XDJ XZ a lot, and it has that feedback suppressor on it. And I look at things today versus what we did back in the day where you had to fight with feedback, you had to fight with this. And I don't, whether it's a club, a wedding, a quinceanera, whatever the event is, somebody with a microphone is liable at some point to walk towards a speaker. So knowing that you're going to get a cut, well, in a club realm where you're using more of the DJM S11, where you have subs maybe on stage or down on the floor off stage, maybe they're running the 215S Express speakers. You don't want to get in front of those with a microphone too close. So knowing that you've already got that, that's a bit of security that's going to help out at future events. And even though it might look simple or small, it's a big thing because none of us wants to have that high-pitched squeal or low rumble and not look good on it. So I really appreciate you mentioning that one. Is there anything else that you've kind of fallen into on this that maybe you didn't know about or wasn't brought to your attention and said, oh, I can't believe it does this?
Well, I like the fact, right now, Serato, the HID mode support with the CDJ 3000s are coming. So right now I only have it in DVS mode. But the fact that the USB hub can switch you from one computer to another. So when you change your input selector, that USB hub on that side, the USB, anything connected to that USB port on this side will automatically switch to the other computer. So if you were running in HID mode, you can just reset it. Because one of the things about HID mode, and you're using it with a mixer that doesn't have a hub, is the fact that you still have to have a separate hub, external hub, that you have to switch from one computer to another, even though you have USBs going for the interface of the mixer to access Serato. You still need a separate hub for the CDJs to go into, and it's awkward to go from one computer to another, and you have to do it mid-set when you're playing with two DJs. The hub totally eliminates that really awkward switchover, and what's cool about it is that it's also powerful enough. The hub provides enough power to power the phase device. So if you were using turntables and you're using the phase device, if you have two PLXs with the phase, it will power it. You don't need to have the phase powered externally some other way.
That's so good to know. Yeah, that when I first saw this and I saw that on the back, and I thought of certain players that people are already might be using and they want to plug in, but it didn't dawn on me that I could then power phase with it, especially, obviously with PLX 1000, which I've seen a lot of people doing. And you and I talked about it. Actually, PJ, you probably don't fall into this because you live in a place that's like 30 below zero. Here in Southern California, I had an event on September 5th. It was 116 degrees, or twice whatever the hottest day of the year is for you guys. Yeah, exactly. Our poor friend Pulse up in Vancouver would have melted or set on fire, one or the other. And something like phase would really come in handy on a day like that, because I could get through that initial heat period and then work my way back to when it gets cool to get my vinyl set out. So it's nice to know that this is all one unit that I don't have to worry about. Are there any other features that you guys have rumbled into by mistake? Because I know we're giving videos and we've got a lot of things on our YouTube page, as well as everything we're doing on Pioneer DJ USA for Facebook, Instagram, and obviously here on Twitch. But I think people, what they want to hear is, yeah, you know what I found? Kind of like an Easter egg thing. So I'm going to start with Rockabee, and then we'll go to PJ, and I think we're going to wind things down a little bit.
I mean, I wouldn't say it was a Easter egg thing, but going back to just really quick what you were saying about the whole setting of phase, I even liked this past weekend I did a very small gig, and it was pretty cool actually, because like you said, it was really hot. I started, I think, like at 3 p.m. So sun was all the way at its peak. Yeah. And it was really cool because I realized, like, oh man, my records are gonna warp. Yeah. And I was nervous about it. So I went ahead and put it in internal mode through the screen, put my records away, just tucked them under for now, like just kind of try to save them. So it was really convenient to, I mean, the flow of being able to also just like, this one I actually did stumble by mistake before I actually started going through the manual. Yes, you should read the manual.
Yes. Read the manual.
Read the manual.
Or you could go to the Pioneer DJ forums and you could talk to Christian or the other moderator and mention things you have, and we could help you with that. Or you could read the manual, but the manual is always good.
Yeah, the
manual is always good.
Manual is always great. Any questions that I have, manual is always the way to go. But before I did that, I always do like kind of a first impression thing, like you said, and just kind of went through it. Like the whole just stacking, I didn't realize when I was doing the stacking that I can change so quickly the order of how I'm stacking everything for my hot cues and stuff like that. And there is some pre-planning that goes involved to that, but it was kind of cool because at first I'm like, I did the hot cue and then I did sampler. So then I had my bottom, so it'd be 6, 7, 8, 9, right, for my sampler. Right. And I was like, man, I wish I could access 1, 2, 3, 4. I didn't realize if I just hold sampler first and then hit hot cue, it stacks the other way around. So I thought that was really cool, just doing it, again, on the fly, first impression. That was super like interesting, because I'm like, man, like now you can really play with the way you're layering everything up.
Absolutely.
So just little things like that were like really popped up again, like so that was a lot of fun. That was really fun to just kind of mess around with. So just the other one that I really liked was just being able to save your effects banks. That was really dope, because just to have that page open, and depending on if you're doing a house set, if you're doing a more open format set, you can just hit that bank, and then everything on the pre-existing effects just loads up. and it's so cool to be able to use that feature without a computer. So I thought that was really cool because on the built-in effects right there, you can change the way you want to do that and configuration. Not to mention the fact that now you can actually hold with Serato like 3 different effects and trigger multiple effects at one time. Like all that stuff I just kind of did, just kind of pushing buttons and messing around. So it's pretty exciting stuff.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. I'm going to ask PJ the same question, but PJ is the guy that I would go to ask a question about this. So we're going to limit him to a 20-minute answer on one question because I don't have enough beer to stay here all night because he knows too much about the S11. So maybe just give me a quick one thing that, even though I know you were, involved in a lot of what's going on with the technology of this, just as a DJ, speak solely, don't forget that, you have involvement, but just as a DJ, what is this out of the box that you stumbled upon and said, oh, this is something I can use all the time to better who I am as a DJ at my events?
Well, when I first got it, the thing that I stumbled upon was actually just the transport mode, and I know that Lewis already spoke about that, where you double-click sampler, and when you're in internal mode, this is literally your cue and play button, your key lock, your sync, and then you can nudge your pitch just like when you're nudging on a CDJ, or you can actually change your pitch. So without decks, you can completely play from the mixer itself with full control. You don't have to just sync it. You can actually beat match it manually. Wow. Now, one of the other things that I stumbled upon was the fact that in the utility settings, you can save your settings of this mixer, your bank settings, the 4, you can save it into your computer. And if you go to a club that has another DJM S11, when you plug it, all your settings are now linked to what you had saved. Yep. So it's a really great thing, so you don't have to go to another DJM S11 and redo all your settings. Now, it's only the effects, it's not the, how you set the master out.
Right.
That's more for the engineer. In fact, one of the things about the engineers is they like this setting right here. Settings lock, so nobody messes with the...
Yeah.
Now, if you know your DJM S11, you know how to unlock, but... Yeah,
and same with the 900 Nexus too. I remember having to show that to a few people, and it was a DJ that was like, I don't understand why I can't raise the volume on this. I'm like, yeah, you can't. It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
Please, can you tell me? I'm like, I don't know.
I mean, that includes mic controls. That includes anything that just involves like major like changes into the audio. Yeah. I love that setting.
No names mentioned, but those of you that understand this will get this. And I know the 3 of us certainly get this. And I think all of you will too. It's the, headliners, redliners.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be.
Doesn't have to be.
Hence why now I believe on this one, as well as other mixes we produce, there's actually a little word called clipped. So before it gets all distorted, before everything falls apart on you, you've got it there.
It's just a suggestion.
It just maybe
just
bring it down a little bit, or clip for your hair. Like when barbershops open, I might get a haircut, but they're not open now. That's the problem. I have to grow it out. I don't know what. Yeah,
I mean,
it must have stopped growing.
You do it
same. Well, he's got the black turtleneck, so he's fine. He doesn't. He's good because
restricts hair growth.
Yeah, exactly. Cuts back in that cold climate. Well, guys, I got to tell you, this has been a real pleasure. I remember watching the development of this and thinking, man, I'm not the guy that's going to scratch and be crazy with it. So I want to see what those guys think. And then as I started looking into it, I'm like, wait a second, you don't necessarily have to be the scratch guy to not only use this and enjoy it, but it offers so much for someone like me in the marketplace. I'm like, that's amazing. But I've seen some people, we've obviously done some videos of late. We've had Z-Trip, we've had John Furst, Caper Official. We've had a bunch of different people. And then people that just randomly, Lazy Boy the other day was doing something like this. Man. And I mean,
crazy.
Yeah.
Shout out to
much
Lazy
love
Boy.
And shout out to Lazy Boy.
Just amazing.
I got to work with him in San Francisco last year doing our Serato tour with our SX3, S3, and I believe the S9. And he shows up right out of the hospital does a killer set.
Oh yeah.
Like the guy is unstoppable. But yeah,
It really is.
and then I was fortunate enough to be there when won Red Bull last year up in San Francisco last December.
Yeah.
So I am grateful and blessed to be able to do all these things, see all these things, and know all these people. So I want to thank both of you guys for coming in today. This has been amazing. I'm going to get in touch with both of you as far as coming back around. If people put questions on, let's say, the Facebook page under the show heading, if I need some help with those, I'm going to get in touch with one or both of you, if that's cool.
Yeah, of course.
Awesome.
Always.
PJ, it's probably like 2 a.m. for you where you live. So I appreciate you being up so late, hanging out. Say hi to Corey from Slipknot for me, if you would. Outside of that,
No
again,
problem.
thank you so much. We'll be in touch, and stay well, stay warm, you know, take care of your family. And again, we
Thank you,
greatly
Jay.
appreciate it.
Thank you, Lewis. Good seeing you guys.
Yeah,
Nice
thank
seeing
you
you,
so
man.
much, buddy. Rockabee, you're going to end this with me. So we're going to do a quick cheers.
Cheers.
Appreciate the set. Appreciate all the information on the DJM S11.
Of course.
This is going to wrap up our third, if you can believe that. This is actually our third show. Wow. The Pioneer DJ Happy Hour. I'm really excited. We've made it through 3 shows.
And now sponsor.
Yeah. Yes.
Partners.
Yes,
Partners.
yes. And we have a 4th show coming up on November 12th. That one I'm really excited about. I may be the only guy on that show, or girl, or anything else, because that show, I'm going to go through the gear that I think is best for you. And what I mean by that is I'm going to show you a piece of equipment and walk through what advantages it has for different DJs in different markets, different levels, different positions. So we're going to line out a whole bunch of gear for you. We're also going to bring out a lot of our holiday gear specials. So if we have things going on, we want you to know about it. And we're probably going to do another giveaway at that show, just like this one. So quickly, before I end the stream, make sure you go and share the stream. We can check that out. So you can win the HDJ Q1s. We'll have another something to give you on November 12th. But again, please check us out. Facebook, Pioneer DJ USA. Instagram, Pioneer DJ USA. You're watching us probably on Twitch, Pioneer DJ USA. I am Jay Brannon. I was hosting this happy hour performance tonight. Rockabee was here performing. PJ was over there. JP and Mark are behind us on production. And again, stay well, stay safe. Please, if you get a chance, spin on October 30th. Go to our Facebook page, Pioneer DJ USA. Find the show link and maybe post a photo of your setup or put a song up. Just say randomly, hey, on this, I'm going to play Michael Jackson Thriller. I'm going to play Typo Negative, Love You to Death. Something like that, just so we can share that. I want this to move past the 1 hour we do every 2 weeks and become the community of DJs who love music, who love being DJs, and this is who we are, not what we are. So from all of us at the Pioneer DJ family here in the USA, I want to thank you again. We're going to wrap this up so we can finish these up.
Oh, yeah.
Stay well, peace, and again, thank you very much for watching. We'll see you in 2 weeks, November 12th.